What's up, everyone? It's Retro JoJo again, here to talk about some more games that intrigue me. This is part 3 of a video series that I started recently. So, first, I want to talk about Star Wars Episode 1 Racer and also Star Wars Republic Commando. I played a lot of Episode 1 Racer growing up on the 64 with my brother and some of his friends and my cousin and just a bunch of other people, even my friends. And it was a very fun game. It has, you can play 2-player up to 4 players on the 64. And it's also on the Switch. And they're a little different, the two versions. The 64 does not have the cutscenes that are seen in the arcade version, which I also played a lot growing up. There's an arcade that I knew of that had an actual cabinet, which is really cool because it looks like Anakin's Pod Racer. It's a very interesting game. It has the same music you would expect from a Star Wars game or Star Wars media in general. It has different stats that you can upgrade and upgrade your pod and make your pod maybe faster, things like that. And you pay with dub bolts with Sebulba. He has some actually funny dialogue in the game that I thought was really humorous. And the game just looks good. It looks good on the 64, or even with expansion packets, it still looks good. But graphically, it was upgraded when it was moved to the Switch because it's the arcade version, but it's been kind of upscaled. It looks better, in my opinion. Game's fun. You can play, there's challenges, there's a tournament mode where you can play through the different locales, and it's just a great game. And then I also want to talk about Star Wars Republic Commando. Star Wars Republic Commando is a childhood favorite of mine. I started playing it when probably in my teens, but it was a good game. I knew about it. The fun fact about this game, I knew about it when I was much younger. It was actually on Clone Wars, I believe it was Volume 1, the DVD. And I always used to have my parents plug it into one of their friends that was also I considered them friends, still do. I had them plug it into his Xbox so that I could play the demo of this game. And even playing the demo back then, I knew this game was amazing. It had, the oil and the gore, I guess you could call it, from the characters splashes at the screen at you, and then this visor comes by. I always thought it was cool, and it wipes all that away from his visor so you can see clearly. Very good game. You play as the Commandos, Delta Squad, and you are a commando. You are the highest of the high. You are the most elite, almost like a Black Op, like in Call of Duty. Very great game, and it looks great. And I have it on the original Xbox, but I also have it on the Switch. And if you like the game and you don't have an original Xbox, I recommend picking up the Switch version. Don't want to spoil too much of the story, but it follows kind of the events of the Clone Wars, and then you fight, all your CIS, battle droids, super battle droids, droidicas, things like that. But you also fight different alien species. And what's interesting about the game, it also has kind of a you're in charge type of thing. So what I mean by that is you have other commandos that are under you that you can tell them what to do. And I thought that was very interesting. It helps you progress through the game based on how you strategize when you're in combat. So very great game. And there's some familiar faces. I know General Grievous makes an appearance. Just a great game all around. And yeah. So now I want to talk about a game that I played much later in my adulthood. That's Conker's Bad Fur Day and Conker Live and Reloaded. These two games are identical as far as the story. And I'm not going to spoil a lot of the story. I don't like to do that typically. I just want to address that. I don't like to do that because if you decide to play the game and you already know what's going to happen because I told you, then it kind of ruins the magic. It ruins the fun. But anyway, getting back to what I was talking about, Conker's Bad Fur Day. Great game. It has movie parodies. It's not a kid's game. It has a lot of graphic violence and gore and innuendos, movie parodies. There's pop culture references and parodies. It's a funny game. It's, again, an adult game that it's just over the top. If you want an over the top game that looks like a kid's game but plays like an adult game, an M-rated title, then here's your game. And it's made by Rareware, the same company made like Banjo-Kazooie, DK64, and among others. And the multiplayer on the 64 has a race mode. I believe there's one where you can be a dinosaur or a caveman, and you're trying to take the eggs back to, if you're the caveman, you do that. If you're the dino, you just attack the caveman, which was what I always chose. But then there's I believe like a command and conquer type of mode in the multiplayer, and then of course there's the deathmatch mode. But where the game really shined for me was where you play through the story. The story is hilarious. Conquer goes the wrong way after a binge drinking session with his buddies, and he meets a bunch of crude characters that he never wanted to meet in the first place. Great game, humorous, funny, looks great, and it does look better on the original Xbox. But I will say this, graphically it's been upgraded. It looks great. It's on par with stuff like Halo and Halo 2, but some of it was censored more, and also the multiplayer was changed. Multiplayer was changed to fit more of a kind of a Halo-ish, I would say Call of Duty-ish kind of feel, is all I can say about that. That's the best way to describe it. But it does have its own little cameos. There's a Millennium Falcon that lands on one of the planets, and I thought that was really, really interesting and kind of cute. So great game, looks good, the gore is great. And I also want to mention that it's on the Rare Replay. If you have an Xbox One, I highly recommend picking up that version of the game, because the other two copies that I mentioned, they can be a little costly. Now, I want to move to Star Wars Rogue Squadron 3 Rebel Strike. I picked this game up from a local game store a few years back, and if you watch my other videos, I believe I did talk about the series as a whole, the Rogue Squadron series. The third game, however, it still retains the same level of gameplay. You know, the gameplay is the same. You're in different ships. You're fighting the Empire. You play as Luke Skywalker, Wedge Antilles. Where the game differs from the other games is that you actually do ground missions. So you may be in a ATST or on a speeder bike, and you actually, or on foot even, and you actually do partake in some of the locales and events of the original trilogy movies, which is good. But where the game fails is, in my opinion, is at the on foot, actually with a blaster shooting at other enemies. It doesn't look all that great. You know, the speeder bike sections, they feel fast, they feel good. It feels like you were on a speeder bike, and you can even do cockpit mode in those, and the ATSTs that I believe you get in an AT-AT at one point. Those are okay. Those feel great. You can even blow TIE fighters from the sky, and those feel great. But it's just the on the ground sections where you're on foot. It doesn't quite, there's something about it just doesn't feel right. But the game looks great. It like I said, it takes place during the original trilogy, like the second game and the first game. It just doesn't, that one section just doesn't add up. But graphically it looks great, plays great. It's another great Star Wars game, and I can't recommend it enough. Now I want to talk about Gex 64 Enter the Gecko. This game was also released on the PS1 as just Gex Enter the Gecko. I played this game when I was a kid, and I didn't realize how good it was back then. I played a little bit of it. I rented it once or twice. I played it, but I actually got pretty far in this game, and it has a lot of funny characters. There's a guy called Mushu Pork, bought one of the bosses. It has a lot of movie parodies. They're kind of like Conkers in a way, but it's for kids. There's no swearing or nothing like that. There's no gore, but it's still hilarious. It's a fun time. Gex is a great character. You go through different places where you're in Toon World, and then the next level you're in like a caveman world. Very fun game, and you're trying to stop Rez. He's from taking over the media dimension. It's a great game. It has a Halloween themed one level. Just overall a fun game and a fun time. If you have kids, I highly recommend you play it with them and show them this game. Now I want to move to Naruto Clash of Ninja 2. I played the heck out of Naruto Clash of Ninja 2 in my childhood as a child, and also into my teen years, and even as an adult. I recently picked this game up again as I lost my copy of it, unfortunately, from where I was a child and a teen in my adolescent years. It's a great Naruto game. You don't have as many characters as you do in some of the newer games. Some of the newer games, they're more realized and the roster's bigger because it covers the whole, different arcs. But this covers kind of, all the way up to, where Sasuke falls and goes to Orochimaru after the curse mark is placed on him. Very great game. It has great characters. It has my favorite character, which is Kakashi, which is, all you need. Just kidding. But there's a lot of great memorable faces from Naruto from the first series. It looks good still, in my opinion. Some may disagree, but I think it looks good. It plays good, and it's very fun if you have, 4 controllers for GameCube or a Wii. If you have a Wii that's backwards compatible, they have the ports on top where you can put the GameCube controllers. I can't recommend it enough. It's fun. You can do versus mode. There's a story mode. There's a time attack mode. There's even where you fight more than, there's 4 characters on the screen. It's very fun. I believe there might be a tag team mode. Can't remember right off. Let me know if you know anything about the game. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong about that. But the story mode, like I said, it follows a lot, kind of like the anime and the manga, and it has a lot of I want to mention this. There's jutsus that you can do in the game once you build up enough chakra. There's a chakra meter, and it fills up, and then you can use your jutsus, which they implemented that in all the other games later. But it, like I said, just a fun time, little arcade fighter. You want to put it in and play with some friends. It's a great game. So now moving to another game that I recently picked up, Area 51. I was told about this game a lot as a teenager. Man, you got to play Area 51. You got to play Area 51. But I didn't pick it up until, like I said, just recently. I'd seen gameplay footage when the original Xbox was released, and I didn't have an original Xbox. I had a PS2 and 64 and GameCube growing up. I didn't really have, the original Xbox. But it's a great game. It follows, I think it's a Marine that you play as. I played through the whole game, but I cannot remember it as either Army or Marine. And it's, there's aliens that you fight, and then you actually get infected in the game with this, almost like a virus, but it's from outer space. You're working at Area 51, and there's a scientist. There's one that works with you, but then there's a whole that's almost like a hive mind thing that is kind of behind everything. And that character is actually, I want to mention this, is actually voiced by Marilyn Manson, which I thought was interesting. But I used to listen to his music a lot. I still do it, every now and then. I heard him a lot as a teen, so sometimes I give it a listen. But I just thought it was interesting that he was the main bad guy in the game. When you play as the kind of base character, you kind of feel like it's just another shooter. And it does. It plays a lot like other shooters that you may know. But where it shines is when you get different weapons. And then when you also are infected and you can switch between where you're infected and where you're normal for the gameplay, it's kind of like the Darkness, or like other games like that, like Fear. A lot of that was implemented in Area 51. So great game, good story, and a fantastic ending. I'm not going to spoil it. It looks good. It plays good. Great story. If you've never played it, I highly recommend that you do so. So now I want to move to Red Dead Revolver. I had never played any of the Red Dead games. You know, now you have Red Dead Redemption 2, and the Undead Nightmare. I had never played any of them. And I actually picked up Red Dead Redemption 2 and played some of it. I didn't really get into it that much. I played a little bit of it. I enjoyed what I played. It was a great game. It's kind of like a Wild West GTA. It's kind of how that game plays, and it looked fantastic and everything else, etc., etc. But I never got into it. Never got into the story fully. But with Red Dead Revolver, I seen gameplay of it on another YouTube channel, and I thought it looked like it would be a fun game to pick up and play, and boy was I right. Red Dead Revolver is where it all starts. You play as this other, I can't remember his name right now, but you play as this character, and his father was actually murdered and betrayed. And so you're going on this, like, first it starts out kind of as a rampage of revenge, so to speak, and then you get to where it's kind of like a bounty hunter type of aspect, but you're still out for revenge throughout the whole game. It's just, but you play through the game. It has a slow down time where you can do like Wild West shootouts, and it feels very spaghetti western. It feels proper. There's points where you have to shoot or you get shot and you're dead, and there's no health bar or nothing. You're just dead. And it felt very realistic. It feels just very westerny, and I enjoyed that aspect a lot. There's great weapons. It looks good on the original Xbox. It plays. It's very fluid. As you play through it, it just feels natural. So I recommend picking it up and playing it. I had a lot of fun with that game. So now I want to move to House of the Dead 2 and 3 Returns on the Wii. The only thing about this game is I do not have the cover art. I wish that it did have the cover art. I picked it up at a GameStop fairly cheap, but I had played the games, number one, in the arcades back in the day. Where it had the curtains where you weren't supposed to, so the kids didn't see the graphic violence. Yeah, those. I convinced my mom to let me and my friend play it, and we filled that thing full of quarters. We could not get enough of House of the Dead, and then also 2, and then 3 I didn't play in the arcade, but I did play it on the Wii, and they both look really good. It continues the story from where 1 left off, and even with the remake. You can play the remake or the original, and you can still have a great time and go right into 2. And I can't recommend to pick up the one on the Wii enough. It's not an expensive game. It's a cheap game now. And the second game takes place right after the first game. You're after this guy named Rogan. He's trying to, keep it alive, basically. And you fight the magician at the end, and you fight the main bad guy, who they don't let you know where his weak point is like they do with the other ones, the other bosses. But graphically, it looks pretty good. It's a lot of a downgrade if you play the remake, because the remake looks, to me, fantastic. But if you play the second and third one, they do look graphically different. And then there's the third one also. It's on the same disc, so you can switch between them. And you play as G, or Lisa Rogan from the first game, his daughter. And you go into this like research facility. And then through that game, you find out that the scientist, he was trying to keep his son alive from the first game. You find that out later. That he was trying to keep his son alive by creating this virus, but then the virus infected other people. There's different enemies that you fight in the game. Just all around, both very great games. They have different modes. There's the story mode and there's an arcade mode. And you can also unlock different like weapons, and there's different extended clip or like lives or credits. So it's a very fun time, especially if you have 2 players, if you play co-op together. Very fun game. Next is Ninja Gaiden, or Gaiden, however everyone says it, Black. Very fun game. I played some of it and got pretty far into this game. It looks good. It plays well. And you feel like a ninja. You feel really fast. And there's no room for error. I will say that in this game. There's no room for error. If you mess up, you may die. It's very graphic. It's unforgiving. The enemies come at you based on the difficulty, full force. And then if you play it on the easy mode, it's still pretty tough. I mean, I played it on the easy mode or the normal mode, and I don't know how anyone would play it on hard mode. It's very unforgiving, very fun. You play as Ryu Hayabusa throughout the story, and it just looks fantastic, plays fantastic. The graphics look great. You feel like a true ninja, like I said before, and the weapons are just, they're spot on. They couldn't have done a better job with this game, and I think it is even better than some of the newer Ninja Gaidens that we have gotten recently. Just my opinion. But now I want to talk about Gunblade New York City and LA Machine Guns Arcade Rage of the Machines Twin Pack. That is a mouthful, everyone. But Gunblade New York, it feels like a Virtual Cop. If anybody's ever played Virtual Cop, which is actually the same company that made the House of the Dead games, but they weren't to the level of gore as the House of the Dead games. The Virtual Cop games were very tame by those standards. But Gunblade New York feels, and the other game that's included on there, LA Machine Guns, they both feel very fluid, very fast. You're in like this mech and you're taking out these like robo terrorists throughout the game. The first one, it does lack a little bit of graphically, it does lack some things. I will say that. But as far as just how it plays, it's fast and it's very fun. It's an arcade shooter. The second one is a graphical upgrade from that one. It has little hearts, and if you take damage, there's this character that says the damage, when you get hit. Very fun game. It's just explosions everywhere. I mean, it's fast, it's fluid. The gun mechanics are easy to pick up and play, especially with a friend. A lot of fun. And I will say that I played that game back in the day in Daytona Beach at a arcade, and I used to put 2 players worth of coins in there so that I could duel it. It had like Uzis, and I would try to play both. So I thought that was a lot of fun and great memories. So if you would like to see any different content on this channel, I'm going to wrap this up. Let me know in the comments. I plan to do some different types of reviews and gameplay reviews, game reviews, movie reviews. So everyone let me know, and I hope everyone is good and stay safe.